Hey guys, this is Justin here. So, this is something entirely new. Well, not entirely new. This is going to mark my third ever movie review. And although this is quite different from my previous reviews because I'm doing it at home, well, in my college dorm. And this was also released on Disney Plus, so there's that. I didn't even need to go to the theaters for this, so that's good. So, today's movie is Turning Red, which was directed by Shi and was released by Walt Disney Pictures and Pixar Animation. It follows the story of a 13-year-old Chinese-Canadian girl called Meilin Lee as she's dealing with her transformations into a red panda and also dealing with the early stages of puberty. And I'm going to be reading from this because this was honestly the best way that I could think to get down all of this information and still present it within the video instead of just like giving vague plot details. And just so you know now, there's going to be spoilers within this review, so be forewarned. I don't even know if that's a word, but yeah, I told you so. So Meilin Lee is a 13-year-old teenager living in Toronto, Ontario, Canada in the early 2000s. And as any teenager would, she's obsessed with boy bands and loves hanging out with her friends like Miriam, Abby, and Priya. So one night when she's at home, she discovers that the band that she's obsessed with, Four Town, they're coming to Toronto, but her mother finds it kind of weird. Then while Mailin's doing homework a little bit later on, her mom notices that she's being like super awkward and discovers that she was making weird drawings about a boy who worked at a store that was near the school. Her mom drives to the convenience store and embarrasses the guy who was behind the counter that Meilin made the drawings of, and also Meilin in the process, and it's just so embarrassing. Even watching it, it was just like, oh no. So I can definitely kind of relate to that. So then after all of that, and then Meilin has a nightmare about everything that happened, and this starts to set off her red panda transformation. She wakes up the next morning and then she finds out that she's a red panda. Then the same day while she's at school, her mom is like watching her from a window, and also security guards coming up to her and like saying, "Hey lady, you can't be here." But she was just trying to help Meilin out because her mom figured that she was starting to go through puberty and was going to give her feminine care products in order to help her out, but she did it at the worst time, just like hiding behind a tree at school. She then runs through Toronto to go back home and is embarrassed and just doesn't want to talk to anybody. But her parents are aware of what's happening after they actually see her. So then they decide to explain to her why it is she's transforming into a red panda. And so her relatives and her ancestors, they were transformed into red pandas as a form of protection when necessary. But since they moved to the United States and Canada, it just kind of became inconvenient, and they've had ways to suppress that. And the only way that it can be dealt with permanently, as far as I'm concerned, a ritual has to be performed under the red moon. And so Mailin's friends, who also heard about the Four Town concert happening in Toronto, they decide to fundraise tickets in some way, and they actually discovered that Meilin was able to transform into a red panda. So with Mailin's permission, they use the red panda transformation as a way to fundraise money. Everything goes well until a bully that tormented Meilin usually decides to ask her come to his birthday party in the red panda form, and will give her extra money that they need for the concert. But then her mom, along with the help of her sisters and her own mother, they come to Toronto to help with the ritual. But since they came over the same night that the party was happening, Meilin decides to sneak out. So then, while Mailin's at the party, her friends are also there. They discover that the concert's actually happening the night of the red moon, which just puts everything out of whack. So her mom finds out that she snuck out and was using her red panda form to her advantage, which really bothered her. So she decides to pick up Malin and just keep her away for as long as she can until the night of the ritual. So now fast forward to the night of the red moon. So the concert and the ritual are taking place simultaneously, almost. But before the ritual begins, Malin's father actually finds that she recorded a video about how happy she was with her friends while she was in her red panda form. He decides to have a heart-to-heart with her just to make her aware that, it's her choice what she wants to do with her life. It doesn't have to be dependent upon parents and ancestors will think of you. You gotta live your life. And also, because Canadian and American culture, they put a lot of emphasis on the individual, not how you'll be perceived by people who came before you, with most Asian cultures seem to do. And so, inspired by this, she decides to accept her panda form while the ritual is taking place, and then she just books it to the concert venue, which kind of has her mom really pissed, and then she decides to chase after her. So as the concert's going on, Malin and her mom start to fight inside the concert venue. But then Malin eventually gets her really, really angry, and then she gets knocked out. But then she feels bad for everything that's happened, and decides to help to bring her mom just back into her human form. With the help of her aunts and her grandma, they help her out to make sure that her mom is helped within the ritual. And during the second ritual, Malin discovers that her mom felt the exact same way about not wanting to disappoint anybody in her life, but still wanting to keep true to herself. And she seems to understand that her mom has had her own struggles and is not just trying to do all these things to her just for the sake of because she's her mom. She learns to accept that you shouldn't need to sacrifice your own life in order to satisfy anybody's extremely high expectations, because it'll usually just end up disappointing everybody, including yourself, because then you just bring yourself so far. Then after all this, then life starts to return to normal, along with a few tweaks that Malin made to have her transformation to a red panda be used to the advantage of the place where her parents work, and also while she's around with her friends. And that's pretty much it. So, all around, this was actually a pretty entertaining movie. It was really funny to watch. And also the animation style, while it's got that Pixar feel to it, they seem to be inspired by anime as well, to have sort of a 2D animation form, but also use it in a 3D sense. Help to the animation come to life a lot more. And since this story happened in Canada, which I am such a sucker for Canadian culture, I thought it was really funny just seeing all the random references that they just threw in. They had a box of Tim Hortons at one point in the movie, and they also showed the CN Tower, which is a skyscraper that's in Toronto. I haven't actually visited Toronto, but I would like to sometime. Since this movie takes place in the early 2000s, you can kind of tell that it does feel almost kind of like a time capsule of culture was at that point in time, with all the boy bands and all that stuff. The music was created by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, which they're actually siblings. So, but they're an amazing songwriting team together. So the music that they have is really inspired by that sound of the early 2000s. You can honestly tell it when you hear it. They also include Destiny Child's Bootylicious within the soundtrack, which I thought was pretty funny because it just made it so unapologetically early 2000s, which when any piece of media does that, I'm yes, I'm all for it. Through the nostalgia cycles, it's okay to just let loose and just go unapologetically nostalgic for whatever you need to do. And this movie seemed to do it pretty well. It was honestly something new that I haven't really expected to see from Pixar animation, but along with Luca and The Incredibles 2, which seem to push more towards like a general audience, but also catering a lot more to the adult demographic, while still staying true to children's entertainment, which Disney is really known for. I thought that this was pretty good. The script was written really well. The comedy really slapped when it needed to. And yeah, there's not much else I could say. Not even like anything super negative about it. I just think maybe it was like a little bit quickly paced, but I was still able to follow everything pretty well. So I would give this movie probably like a 7 or 8 out of 10, which is what I rated for the Batman. My expectations for like other movies coming out in 2022, I feel like they'd be about the same as that, because I haven't really seen anything recently that warrants like a 9 or 10 out of 10, but who knows, maybe that could change in the future. And this is also pretty interesting because I'm uploading this review on the same day that it came out, which is highly rare for me because I've always made my videos well ahead of time. But, you know, this is something different. But anyways, enough of my rambling. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see anything else like this, you can subscribe down below or follow me on social media. So, with that being said, thanks for watching.
Every little thing I do never seems enough for you. You don't want to lose it again. But I'm not like them, baby. When you finally get to love somebody, guess what? It's gonna be me.